Just a few days ago, a young French woman created a big controversy in India for reportedly taking off her clothes in Rishikesh, in an area which is regarded as sacred for many Indians. While in America and Europe, many families and friends go out together to enjoy spas or to sunbathe and hang out at nude beaches. On the other hand, activities requiring one to fully take off one's clothes can be very awkward or uncommon for many Indians. We must understand that what may come across as normal for one country or culture could be something extremely shocking for the other. Yes, without an element of doubt, there is a lot of difference in how nudism, nudity or sex are perceived in the West and in India. For example, in the UK, one can even have a naked girl coming to clean one's house. It may sound very disgusting and sick for many, but of course, the naked cleaning services in the UK are real and are happening. There is a naturist town in France, Cap d'Agde, where naturists walk free in the whole town doing their daily activities. It is a very famous tourist destination and attracts visitors from all over Europe. As far as my understanding is concerned, officially accepted nudist towns or practices like these are simply unthinkable in India. Moving on further in regards to contrasts in cultures, another example could be the trend of Western women visiting countries like Gambia and Jamaica to find sexual satisfaction. Research by Shared Hope International mentions how Negril, a small town in Jamaica, is the destination of choice for an increasing number of British female sex tourists. An estimated 80,000 single women, from teenagers to grandmothers, flock to the island every year and use the services of around 200 men known as rent-a-dreads, restitutes, or the Foreign Service, who make this resort their headquarters. But it must be pointed out that not all Western women who practice female sex tourism are single. In his chapter on female sex tourism, Brent Smith of St. Joseph's University cited the work of author Jeannette Beliveau, who in her book Romance on the Road notes that female sex tourism has been practiced by nearly 600,000 women from 1980 to 2005. Brent Smith adds that at the time of the book's writing, 1 in 7 of these women was married or in committed relationships with boyfriends. Though urban India appears to be adopting the Western habits and the Western commercial monoculture, it is still almost unthinkable for one to imagine middle-aged or elderly Indian women practicing such behaviors in foreign countries in such vast numbers. How sex is perceived may also differ in different nations. For instance, in Britain, a survey revealed that 42% of Britons would at least consider having sex for money if the money offered was large enough. Research by David Schmidt, professor of psychology at Bradley University, revealed that British men and women are the most promiscuous in the Western world. In the West, risky sexual behaviors, indecent exposure, and casual sex with strangers are also encouraged further by activities in many celebrations and festivals such as Mardi Gras and Woodstock, which are held regularly. Of course, nobody should challenge the right to individual freedom, and nobody should undermine the beauty of festivity. But does it mean that all people who hang out in these places or are involved in such behaviors have sound psychological health? Does it also mean that we Europeans should stop being self-critical and lose our scientific temperament? Why should we not dare to go beyond our Western society's cleverly projected shiny surface, underneath which an ugly reality that involves crimes, health risks, tortures and disrespect to human dignity thrives? For instance, in Mardi Gras celebrations, exposed body parts, public sex acts, fleshed breasts and genitals are commonplace in many parade areas. Researchers have also studied the behavior of drunken promiscuity in Mardi Gras. Drunken promiscuity can't be considered safe by the best available science today because no amount of protection can guarantee safe sex. Viruses and bacteria that cause STDs can even be transmitted through tiny cuts in mouths. Even Harvard Medical School has published plenty of information regarding this. HPV, the human papillomavirus, is the #1 cause of mouth and throat cancer. Long-term infections can cause multiple problems and even cancer of various other types. Sexual contact, including oral action and deep kissing, can be a method of HPV transmission from one person to another. Very importantly, the likelihood of contracting oral HPV is directly associated with the number of sexual partners a person has had. Multiple studies have shown that people living in Western nations usually have the largest number of sex partners, far ahead than what it is in a country like India. And remember, it is not about moral policing. It is about having a scientific temperament so that people can make their own well-informed decisions. Now pause the video for a moment and read this to understand the promiscuous behavior of high school students in America. This is exactly why I think that some foreigners should understand that just because many traditional men and women in India don't like the idea of sleeping around with strangers, it doesn't mean that they are backward or boring. In fact, by rejecting promiscuity, these traditional Indians follow science better. As far as female sex tourism is concerned, how can we stay blind to the chilling stories of Western women hiring underage boys in other nations for their sexual satisfaction? A study by Shared Hope International mentions how in Jamaica, chapsies are teenage boys having sexual relations with older women known as sugar mommies. The study also cites research that suggests that women on holiday are less likely to use contraception or protection against STDs than at home, and sex tourism is making this problem worse. This is despite the fact that among the sex workers, the STI rates are far higher than in general populations. The practice of Western women having sex with underage males is not restricted to only those who travel abroad. A Swedish study revealed that nearly 6% of the adult female participants had engaged in sex with underage males, and 2.4% had had sexual intercourse with underage males. Committing crimes or increasing health risk during activities involving promiscuous behavior or sex tourism is not gender-specific. More or less, both genders are involved in these behaviors, and both should be held responsible. Recklessly blaming one gender for this cannot be a solution. Give this a thought. If one gender makes a mistake and instead of helping that particular gender change their behaviors and mend their mistakes, the other gender also starts to make the same mistakes, will we collectively as a whole society become better or worse? Now let's focus on nudity, nudism and naturism. According to the International Naturist Foundation, naturism is a way of life in harmony with nature characterized by the practice of communal nudity with the intention of encouraging self-respect, respect for others, and for the environment. Well, environment protection is a great idea, but as far as respect for the environment is concerned, can we please have the calculations of the ecological footprint of an average visitor of Cap d'Agde and see where it stands in the Global Footprint Network's metrics? And as far as respect for others is concerned, how can we know that out of all the visitors who visit Cap d'Agde in France or any other naturist-friendly places in the world, none of them are exhibitionists? Yes, can someone tell how we can know that some exhibitionists do not pose as naturists in these places? And if exhibitionists are successfully blending in with naturists or are successfully posing as naturists, then in that case, can someone explain how such behavior can be considered respectful? Yes, we have every reason to be concerned because exhibitionism is one of the most common criminal sexual offenses. Strong urges for indecent exposure in public and exhibitionistic disorder exist in Western societies. For instance, in Sweden, it was revealed that 4.1% of men and 2.1% of women had revealed their genitals to a stranger at least once in their lives, and quite disturbingly, the act made them sexually aroused. Exhibitionism or indecent exposure has been classified as a sexual offense. As per law in many countries, it is considered a mental disorder, and it has been confirmed that exhibitionists feel sexual arousal during their act of exposures of genitals. But this brings one question. What are the factors that cause such behavior in humans? Well, the study reveals that exposure to nudity within the nuclear family, partnered with early sexual experimentation involving breast or genital exposure, significantly increased the likelihood of participants exposing themselves in public and having such urges. So, in the given overall scenario, can we say that the urge to get nude or wear extremely revealing outfits may not always be about empowerment, boldness, or individual freedom, but it could also be an undiagnosed or hidden exhibitionistic disorder? And by the way, do you think that India is rude when it doesn't expect foreigners to go topless or nude on its beaches or places meant for families to enjoy? Well, if on many nude beaches in Europe or America, people who are clothed are not allowed, don't you think that India also has the right not to allow the foreigners to go nude in those places where Indians hang out with their clothes on? Some foreigners should understand that just because many women in India prefer to wear clothes that aren't too revealing, it doesn't mean that they all lack self-confidence and are not empowered. And anyway, why should anybody be ashamed of their clothing style? After all, one can also be bold without taking off one's clothes. But wait a second, does it mean that nudity does not exist in India? How about Naga Sadhus or some Jain monks? What about them? Well, for any rational observer, the idea of comparing the concept of nudity in these sadhus and monks of India who practice non-covetousness and celibacy to the concept of nudity in the West is likely to sound very inappropriate, as nudity in the West appears to be mixed with promiscuity, exhibitionism, mental disorders, foam parties, risky sexual behaviors, and materialism. Another point that is often raised is about some temples in India with erotic sculptures on the outer walls. To better understand this subject, I discussed it with the renowned Indian archaeologist K.K. Mohammed, who resides in the Indian state of Kerala.
See, the concept of a temple itself is a human concept. Just as you are standing, the temples also will be having many parts, like the feet of you. The temple also will be having a feet. You have a knee, the temple also will be having a knee. So the concept is human concept. It is said, Upapidam Charnakar Adhishtanam Janu Mandalam Padavarga Karakaram Prastaram Bahumulagam. So that is the human concept. And inside you have a deity. So outside, just outside the deity, that is known as Garbhagraha. Just outside this Garbhagraha, there will be two other on one side and two other side also. So the statue on the right side, she would be standing on a crocodile, and the statue on left side, she would be standing on tortoise. So the one standing on crocodile, that is a symbolism of river Ganges. And the one standing on tortoise, that is a symbolism of river Yamuna. So this means you are having a symbolic bath in river Ganga and river Yamuna, and also the unseen Saraswati also, because it is, when you have got that Sangam is there, it is unseen, this one also. So you are having a symbolic bath. For example, if you go to Khajuraho, you have all kinds of things are there. But that is only outside. You don't find things inside, which means this world is full of all these kinds of things. But now you are in a different world. You are going to a temple. Again, you are having your symbolic washing in Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati. And then with a pure mind, you are going towards your own Lord.
But there is another point that should be discussed. Some traditional clothes that Indians wear didn't always look the way they look today. In the past, the women in some ethnic cultures in India even went bare-breasted or wore minimal clothing. Even today, the same also goes with some tribal groups in India. How about that? It should be understood that many traditional attires in India have gradually evolved. It is also said that some of the ethnic groups in India added more layers in their clothing after coming in contact with various invaders or colonizers. In addition, we shouldn't forget that different eras may have different cultural values, different definitions of modesty, and even different problems. But irrespective of the era or culture, can there be a place for sexual disorder or sexual offenses in any society? That is why our focus shouldn't be on dictating what others should wear, but on how to save our societies from mental or societal disorders. It is extremely important to understand that the nature of the sexual offense may vary among different tribes and cultures, but all sensible societies or tribes, irrespective of eras and cultures, should ideally be against any form of a sexual offense. And as far as following the ancient Indian culture is concerned, we shouldn't overlook that the traditional Indian culture also promotes inner balance, yoga and meditation, which can contribute to controlling mental disorders that are responsible for sexual offenses. Let us not forget that the human body is a complex structure with multiple erogenous zones that may respond to the nature of circumstances, cultural context, and individuals' unique chemistry. That is why each individual needs to find their own inner balance and control any extreme inner disorder. This traditional Indian approach should go a long way in establishing healthy societies. Of course, pursuing materialism or sensual indulgence is fine as long as the interest or pursuit doesn't result in extreme disorder. But in those Western societies where grandmothers go to Africa for sexual satisfaction, where people debate whether little girls in schools should wear tongues or not, or societies where high school students are indulged in risky sexual behaviors, and societies where pro-pedophile groups like PI can emerge, can we dare say that perhaps something somewhere is not quite balanced? This brings us the question, if these societies are becoming hypersexualized, is it also serving somebody's commercial interests? Well, the report from Shared Hope International says that as the culture continues to normalize sexual images and activities, the markets grow. And of course, if the markets grow, spending grows. And if the spending grows, modern economies, which are based on the unsustainable model of work and spend, grow too. And let us not forget that these markets may also involve the billion-dollar Western adult film industry empire, the part of the fashion industry that normalizes hypersexualization, objectifies or demean women, and many other segments that are part of our everyday life. Isn't it right to say that the dangerous trend of normalization of hypersexual behavior is one of the major challenges that global society is currently facing? Today, India is going through a very delicate phase of transition. But what is happening in India these days can easily worry those who are India's true well-wishers. It is unfortunate that the world's largest democracy is struggling to beautifully preserve the golden elements of its cultural heritage and knowledge traditions. Yes, India has many problems too, but why should India import the worst practices or behaviors of Western societies as the potential solution to its problems? And those who seem to misjudge Indians and their love for their ways of living, and those who refer to Indians as backward based on their traditional clothes and for their lack of interest in casual sex, should not overlook what the research and the best available science say about exhibitionism, exhibitionistic disorder, and promiscuous behavior. Isn't it right to say that the urge to get nude or exposing oneself in public for extremely revealing clothes is not always about individual freedom or being bold, as in some cases, it can also be about undiagnosed or hidden exhibitionistic disorder? Of course, it doesn't mean that one should think that all men and women who wear extremely revealing clothes or visit nude beaches are exhibitionists or suffer from the exhibitionistic disorder. Intellectual discussions and research on sex, health, nudity, and other human behaviors should continue as this is the information age. And India can certainly be a better place if Indians can make their own independent and well-informed decisions. Whether they choose to follow their Indian grandmother's footsteps or these British grandmothers, or write their own destiny, will be entirely in their hands. If you have liked this episode, may I also take the liberty to tell you that these episodes take years of hard work, devotion, and a lot of money? Namaste, my name is Karolina Goswami. Through the help of many studies, research and facts, I have been doing my best to carefully uncover India's complex layers and present them to the world in a logical manner so that the global community can develop a broader understanding of India and Indians. So please come forward and support this mission financially. And yes, I highly recommend that you watch these two playlists on our channel to broaden your perspective regarding some of the most complex and challenging issues that the global community is currently facing. So thank you and see you again.